Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today for our workshop co-produced with Black Dollar, Rebounding from COVID-19, Resources for Funding, Best Practices for Safe Reopening, and Marketing Strategies to Restore Consumer Confidence. My name is Eric Swan. I'm on the Economic Development team at the Downtown Raleigh Alliance. For those of you not familiar with the Downtown Raleigh Alliance, we are an independent nonprofit contracted by the City of Raleigh to champion downtown development and support and grow the downtown business community. We assist the city in management and maintenance of the public realm via the Ambassador Program and the Team Downtown Raleigh. Other program investments include storefront recruitment, business retention, and community engagement programs. We also offer quarterly business development workshops. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the events of the last week, both locally and nationally, and reaffirm DRA's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. More so, our commitment to creating a downtown where women, minorities, and people of color feel not only welcome, but wanted in our community. Inclusion and accessibility have been a focus for us in the last year, and we have worked within our strategic plan to support and develop women and minority business enterprises throughout downtown. Recently, we partnered with Wake Tech to create a pop-up space for women and minority-owned businesses on Martin Street, and we will be working to expand the capacity of this program in coming months. As a part of our business workshop series, we also make specific focus on minority and women business enterprise topics like today's workshop. DRA is committed to providing more than just information, but also opportunities. With that, I'll turn it over to Kayla Walker, VP of Black Dollar, to tell us a little bit more about their organization and efforts. Just a moment.
Thank you, Eric. Can everybody hear me okay? Unmute. Can you guys hear me now? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Eric. Good morning, everyone. As Eric said, my name is Kayla Walker. I am Vice President of Black Dollar, and it's a pleasure to be a part of this collaborative effort to educate and unify the communities in Raleigh. Just to give a quick background on Black Dollar and what we stand for, we were founded in 2019 by Johnny Hackett Jr., who is also on this call. Black Dollar is now a growing Rolodex of over 500 Black-owned businesses in the area of North Carolina, and the numbers are just increasing as the days go by. So if you're looking for anything from catering to bus tours, you'll find it on Black Dollar's website. Black Dollar, we also curate a wide variety of events, pop-up shops, locating vendor spaces, and we also serve as a pathway for resources for small businesses that may need assistance in marketing, funding, brainstorming. And again, we work in collaboration with other businesses and individuals to promote access and provide access to informational sessions like this one. So with the murders of Amadou Dalou, Sandra Bland, Sean Bell, Corinne Gaines, Tamir Rice, and recently Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, Black Dollar NC has been working hard to share information in the community and within our business networks to bring awareness to the social injustices that happens in this country every day. And one reason why we decided to start Black Dollar NC was in response to those certain inequalities that hit home for us years ago. And through Black Dollar, we have been able to tear down the walls and build bridges in North Carolina, regardless of your social and economic condition. We all believe, and we all should believe, that there is major room for improvement, both in the community and within our business environments. So today's webinar, it focuses on minority-owned businesses because we see the struggles these business owners face with receiving information or even funding from COVID-19 resources. And the year 2020 is moving very fast. Information and its statuses change on a daily basis. As we were planning for this webinar, in response to the financial inequalities, the current social situation broke open with regards to George Floyd. So this webinar will be recorded and distributed to everyone who signed up, but we also hope that we can share information with you regarding upcoming initiatives aimed at our mission to continue to bring awareness and build support for these times and these social issues. So with that being said, we hope that you enjoy today's webinar and great speakers we have lined up today, but we also hope to speak with you again and on additional matters that are impacting our city, our state, and our nation, because we need your support every day. Thank you, Eric. Back to you.
Thank you, Kayla. We're really excited to be working with you all and seeing where this goes. Now we'll be moving on to our panelists. We will be collecting questions throughout the presentations for Q&A at the end. If you have a question, please share it in the chat along with the name of the person to whom your question is directed, and then we can go through at the end and go through these. Our first speaker is going to be Katie Gales. She is a Director of Entrepreneurship Enterprises at Wait Tech Community College, and she's going to be speaking to us about legislation, programs, and other resources. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you very much, Eric. I'm happy to be here with you today to talk about resources available to small businesses and entrepreneurs in our area. And I'm going to be talking about two basic categories. One is about resources that are already funded by your tax dollars at several levels. And these are resources that are available to you always and forever, even when there isn't a pandemic. And then I'm going to spend some time after that talking about the particular financial packages that are available to you. So Eric, if you could put up my charts, it'd be great. And by the way, you all will get a copy of these after the event. So, and all of the major things I'm talking about will be hot links in the PowerPoint charts. So once you get them, you'll be able to just click on them and get to more information. Because we have limited time, I won't be able to do a deep dive on any of them, but you can consider my charts as a reference document for later. So as you see things that you're interested in, you'll be able to click and get more information on your own after the session is over. If we could go on to the next slide. So these are the things I referenced before and after the money. Because these are things that you've already paid for with your North Carolina money or meaning your tax dollars, and I'll cover each of these 5 items. And then I'll talk about some things that are available, resources that are available to you based on your federal tax dollars. These are all free to you. And then things that we should all be using as professionals to stay healthy and stay connected. So let's go on to the next chart where I talk about the Small Business Center. A lot of people don't realize that North Carolina has 58 community colleges, and each one of those community colleges has a small business center connected to it. It's funded by the state of North Carolina to provide free one-on-one confidential counseling to anyone in North Carolina with a pulse, and also free seminars, webinars for small business owners. Occasionally, we have to charge a little something if we're partnering with an organization that's maybe offering an event over lunch and they need some money to cover the meal. But you are within easy driving distance of 5 small business centers right here. Of course, the closest one is Wake Tech, but there's also a small business center at Durham Tech, Central Carolina, Johnston, and Vance Granville. And so I encourage you to take advantage of all of those because you get free seminars and free counseling. The other program that's available to you, if you're in any of these 7 cities, is a program called Launch Wake County. It's a deep dive 12-week program that you have to apply, be interviewed, and be accepted into. But once you're accepted, it is completely free. You get business and startup training. You get assigned a mentor for 6 months. You are put into a community with networking, and we help you find money for your business if that's what you need. You can see our diversity statistics right there. We're very proud of that. It's a growing community. By the end of this year, we will probably have almost 500 people in this community. So we're building basically a countrywide chamber of commerce. Let's move on to the next slide. The North Carolina Military Business Center, if your customer base is federal, if you want to do business with the military bases, then the North Carolina Military Business Center is a resource you should use. It is free as well. And their objective is to make sure that the military bases do more business with North Carolina companies. So use that. If they offer some free networking opportunities and a lot of good information about which bids are open and the like. Let's move on. So some resources that we should all be using is the public libraries. If you're a small business owner, you don't have a library card, go get one, because there are research databases, there are reports, there's industry analysis and statistics and trends that you can have access to for free with your library card that you would ordinarily have to pay for. You can also use some university libraries here if you get a community borrower card. If you are a CPA or a photographer or a life coach, or name any profession, food truck, you need to be networking with your professional associations, because that's where you will find the people who are being successful doing what you are doing. So if you're not a part of your professional association, please do that. And of course, you want to find your tribe, your networking tribe, either through Meetup or LinkedIn or Facebook or any other group, any other medium that you could use to connect with people, either that can help you find customers that are your customers, or that can be mentors and give you advice. Okay, let's move on. Now, SCORE is funded by your federal tax dollars through the Small Business Administration. These are business professionals who volunteer to help small business owners grow their businesses. We have 2 chapters in the area. The Raleigh chapter has 70 volunteers alone. It's a great resource. Here again, it's free. They do a lot of seminars at the public libraries. Most of them have been changed to webinars now, but just see the link down there, get on their newsletter so you can see the things that are coming up. Let's move on. Another thing that's funded by your federal tax dollars is the Women's Business Center of North Carolina. Their offices are in Durham. They provide a lot of resources as well, as you can see, and there's a link at the bottom of the charts. If it looks like there's redundancy and overlap in these resources, it's by design. Think of a Longenberger basket that the weave is so tight that if you put something in the basket, it won't fall through. And that's the way these resources work for you in the Triangle area. There is some overlap, but we are not territorial. We collaborate and we partner. We just want to make sure that everybody has access to what they need. Next slide, please. The Small Business Technology Development Centers are kind of like the small business centers, but they're paid for by your federal tax dollars, and every state-supported university has an SBTDC connected to it. So there are 3 in this area. They specialize in the business that are ready to scale. They're ready to really grow. So not so much what I call the itty bitties, which the community college small business centers specialize in. So that's an option for you if you're right on the verge and you need to grow and you feel like you need some help in the way of funding or access or advice, then I would recommend going to the Small Business Technology Development Centers. Next slide. And of course, there are resources through state government for women and minority-owned businesses. Getting HUB certified through the Historically Underutilized Business Office, a HUB office, is an advantage because it confirms to government agencies and corporations that you really are minority or women-owned as they're looking to do business with more under-resourced entrepreneurs. And then the North Carolina Department of Revenue has great webinars on taxes for small businesses. That's where a lot of small businesses get in trouble, but they really are there to help. And you can go to these resources, and you can also call up a counselor at the North Carolina Department of Revenue for help. And I do recommend that everybody get on the SBA.gov newsletter list so that you can see everything that's coming down the pipe from the U.S. Small Business Administration that you may be able to take advantage of. Next slide, please. Okay, now we finished the section about the resources that are available to you for free with your state or federal tax dollars. So please take advantage of those. Now we're going to talk about financial resources that are available, and many of these are specifically in response to COVID-19. But let's talk some basics first. In this case, the early bird really does get the worm. I know as you're running your business, it's a challenge to stay on top of all developments, but at this time, it really is important that you do that, because sometimes these opportunities these financial resources are only available for a period of time, and you don't want to miss that window. So please block time on your schedule to stay connected and aware. Even if it's every morning when you're drinking your coffee, that you spend an hour just looking through your email and seeing what's there that you need to react and respond to that has a timeline. Please follow fiscally sound business practices. If you have a question and you know you're kind of skirting the edge of not being fiscally sound, then all of those resources that I talked about before are there to help you get your books in order, to get your processes in order, because many of these financial resources require a business plan or tax returns or a budget. And if you don't have those things readily in hand, you may not be able to respond. A lot of the resources I'll be talking about are delivered through local financial institutions and resource providers. It is ideal that you would have a relationship with your bank beyond just being a number, that you actually have a small business banker at your bank or your credit union that knows your name, because that means you can probably move more quickly through some of these processes. So I do encourage you, develop a relationship with those bankers. If you have questions about how to do that, my phone number is in these charts. Feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email and we can chat for a few minutes and I can give you some tips on how to do that. So let's move into the detail now. First, one of my favorite organizations, NC IDEA, is a nonprofit, is a private foundation headquartered in Durham, covers the state of North Carolina, and they provide grants for small businesses even when there is no COVID-19. You can see here that there are a lot of different types of grants that they provide. The key thing is to go to their website, look at what might be right for you, be willing to compete, meaning pitch your business, fill out a thorough application, because this is money that you do not have to pay back. So it's a resource that you certainly want to use if you're eligible. Next slide, please. When we talk about government financial resources and assistance, they fall into actually 4 categories. I left out one category. So Eric, I'll update my charts and send you an updated version before you distribute it to our participants today. Let's start at the federal level. Everybody knows about the PPP. We've had 2 rounds of money into the PPP. The small banks and the CDFI still have money to lend. So if you have not applied, you still have an opportunity to do that. People who have already applied and gotten their money should now be looking at submitting applications for loan forgiveness with the institution from which they got their loan originally. If you need help with your PPP application, the counselors in the small business centers and the SBTDCs are well trained on these. So request an appointment and get in there, let somebody help you. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the EIDL, they're right now only accepting applications for agricultural businesses. So if you're not an agricultural business, that opportunity is passed. What I did not include in this chart that I will include is the North Carolina COVID-19 Rapid Recovery Loan. So that's something that's at the state level. It's money from the Golden Leaf Foundation. Is being administered by 7 North Carolina community development financial institutions, and they're providing loans up to $50,000 with an interest rate of 5.5% that you need to repay in 4 years. Your business must have at least 1 employee, and you must have been open before March 23rd. So I'll add that to the chart. At the county level, we have the Wake Forward program. $5 million has been set aside for small businesses, with $1 million set aside for sole proprietors. This is so important. Our barbers, cosmetologists, nail techs, any 1099 person, even though you may be working that 1099 for one company, you are an entrepreneur, you are a sole proprietor, you are working for yourself under contract with another company. And I was so happy to see that $1 million set aside for sole proprietors. And some of our cities are responding with their own source of funds to help members of their community. The Raleigh COVID-19 Small Business Relief Fund is out there. It's being administered by the Carolina Small Business Development Fund. And we got a gift at Wake Tech of $60,000 to allocate to Raleigh small businesses that were seeking assistance from us or in the Launch Wake County program. Apex Chamber of Commerce has an angel fund, and the Holly Springs Chamber of Commerce also has an angel fund. Others are working on funds but have not announced them yet. So what this means is you need to be connected with your local Chamber of Commerce. You can get your Chamber of Commerce newsletter without being a member, but it does keep you informed of what's going on in your community. So I highly recommend that. Let's move on. So financial institutions, there are 3 types. The community development financial institutions, I mentioned them earlier, they are administering the North Carolina Rapid Recovery Loan, and they are also administering the Wake County loan program. So a community development financial institution, CDFI, is a nonprofit bank. They do not have savings accounts or checking accounts. Their only purpose is to lend money to low-resourced entrepreneurs. People who have perhaps applied to the bank and have not been denied. They typically have more generous credit score allowances. They have higher interest rates, but it's easier to get a loan. And some of the CDFIs offer technical assistance, meaning they can help you with your business so that you can repay that loan. Many companies start with a CDFI loan and end up growing into a bank loan as they scale their business. So please connect with your CDFIs. That hot link takes you to a directory where you can search and look at all of the CDFIs in North Carolina. There are 3 in the Triangle area. There is Self-Help Credit Union that operates kind of as a credit union and a CDFI. There's Thread Capital through the North Carolina Rural Center, and then there's the Carolina Small Business Development Fund. Community banks and credit unions are great resources for small businesses. Many of the credit unions and community banks still have PPP dollars. They are more focused on businesses like yours. They're more relationship-based, so it's easier to get in front of a human being and establish a relationship. And a lot of the decisions about who gets a loan is done locally, so they have a little bit more flexibility in how they make loans. National banks have higher loan limits, larger footprints, but many times they are funding the CDFIs. So just be aware of all these institutions. That's the end of my presentation. Here's my contact information. Like I said, feel free to reach out to me. And Eric, if there are any questions you want me to take at this moment, just let me know. I know I went through that real fast. I'm a Southern girl. I didn't realize I could talk that fast.
All right. I'm just waiting for Zoom to stop sharing my screen.
Ah, okay.
We knew that there would be a technical hurdle at some point, and we are there.
Well, if there's a question you want me to answer, just read it and we can get into it.
Sure. Well, one question that we have is, in terms of the PPP, what are the general eligibility requirements?
Well, you have to have been in business by January. You have to show at one time, no nonprofits within the first wave, although I think they are accepting nonprofits in the second wave. You have to be able to show revenue, and what they're offering is, I think, too much revenue up to $50,000. So some of them require a tax return. So those are the basic eligibility requirements. You will need to go to a bank that does SBA loans to get this. So if you have a relationship with the bank already, or a CDFI or a credit union, I would call them first. The link that I provided takes you to the application form. As I mentioned, if you need some help filling out your form, the Small Business Center counselors and the SBTC counselors have been well trained on all of these, and they stayed abreast on all of the changes that have happened over time with the PPP. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yes. And let's see, Katie, are health insurance premium payments and retirement contributions added to payroll costs?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay. That's all right. And then as far as, so do individuals who are self-employed and report income and expenses on forms other than a Schedule C. Do they qualify for the PPP?
They can qualify for the PPP. In an ideal world, if you are self-employed and hopefully you're incorporated, and you've been paying yourself visibly through a W-2. I know a lot of our sole proprietors don't do that, but it's best practices. It's easier for you to prove your income. But that doesn't mean that you can't prove it some other way. And I would work with your lender to see how you can put together the best application. The lenders are motivated to help you with this because they're getting a fee on making these loans. So you are not a burden, you are a customer. Go to your bank or come to the Small Business Center and let's put the best application forward. And everybody's aware that with the PPP, you have the option to apply for loan forgiveness. There's a window based on when your loan was approved. So everybody's window for applying for forgiveness will be different. Fortunately, that application for loan forgiveness will be done with the bank that gave you the loan in the first place. So you will be able to go back and get more information and more help even with your loan forgiveness application.
What are the acceptable uses of the PPP funds for businesses other than self-employed individuals?
The purpose of the PPP really was to keep people employed. So you do need to prove in order to get the loan forgiven that you kept people on payroll for 8 additional weeks.
All right. And let's see here.
I think one of the main points that I want to make with all of these programs is for people to remember that they are not in this alone. There's a lot of help out there. We know that some of the terms can be confusing and things change. When I look at all the changes that happened to the EIDL and the PPP after they were rolled out, it can be confusing. You don't have to be a lawyer and an expert on all these. Just leverage all those resources that are there to help you, that are already funded by your tax dollars. Don't try to do this by yourself.
Because I can close the program and you can stay open. Okay. All right.
I see that my video is frozen, and that's okay, as long as you guys can hear me.
Thanks, Katie. We're having a little technical difficulty.
I'm gonna stop my video and mute my my audio and get out of the way for the next person.
Sure. So I'm going to transition it over to Megan Wardell. Megan's going to talk to us about how businesses can stop the spread of infection, incident reporting, and return to work protocols. And I'll let her give more of an intro on herself.
Yep. Hi, everyone. Thank you for sharing your time with me today. I know your time and attention are more precious than ever. Downtown Raleigh Alliance and Black Dollar, thank you for having me. As Will mentioned, I'm a healthcare compliance consultant. I'm a second-generation small business owner and a third-generation entrepreneur. I own Grain Company Incorporated, which for 27 years has helped outpatient surgery centers get licensed and accredited. I never thought that this knowledge would be helpful across all different types of businesses, but unfortunately with COVID, that is the reality that we're living in. My goal today is, I know you got a lot on your plate, and I want to help you create a COVID plan, ask you the questions and give you the resources to create a COVID plan so that it's taken care of. You have a plan for the eventualities of COVID and you can move forward with your businesses and you can focus on more pressing matters. I have 15 minutes to talk to you today. I have a lot of information. I'm going to hit on the things that I think will be most useful and are maybe least talked about right now. I do have a 90-minute workshop coming up next week with Katie's group, the Wake Tech Small Business Center. So if you want to reach out to Katie or I, you can get some information on getting all the full amount of content from me. I have developed all of this using the resources on the page of the handouts that Eric should have sent to you ahead of time. And that is from CDC, OSHA, NCDHHS, and then Wake County Health Department. So I'm going to get right into the content now. This is going to be infection control considerations for businesses operating during COVID. Primarily, it's for businesses that have a brick and mortar where their customers are either going to be present or their just staff is going to be coming in contact with one another. I'm going to try to give you guys examples across different industries, whether it be restaurants, the service industry, and retail. If you guys have specific questions, I've got my contact information at the end of the handout, the bottom, grayandcoinc.com. You can go there and find out how to contact me and get any more information. I'm happy to share specifics about your industry. So we all have heard the 3 W's when it comes to operating as an individual person during COVID: wear a mask, wait, and that means maintain the 6 feet distance, and wash your hands often. I always add to that, don't touch your face. All businesses do now have to consider how to decrease the spread of COVID-19 and lower its impact on the workplace. This includes 3 activities. You want to prevent and reduce transmission among employees, so between each other, maintain healthy business operations, and maintain a healthy work environment for staff and visitors or customers. You guys are going to want to make these plans because unfortunately, these are going to be considerations that you have to make, not just in this phase 1, 2, 3 that the government is talking about, but until there's a widely available vaccine. You're going to have to make these considerations. So first, preventing and reducing transmission among employees. You're going to want to have pretty flexible leave policies because you want to encourage sick employees to stay home. I know it's a hardship. I own a small business, but ultimately paying people to stay home when they're sick is going to save you money because then you're not going to have to close because of a potential exposure. Conduct daily in-person health checks, including temperature and symptom-based screening questions. I'm recommending that you guys do this for all staff, if not all customers. Some different industries lend themselves better to doing it for customers or visitors. This would be taking their temperature outside. Anything above 100.3 is a fever. Asking them the screening questions. Have they or someone they've been in contact with had a new or worsening cough, fever above 100.3, changes in smell or taste, or general fatigue. You will want to log that when your staff comes in, and also create a log of anybody that's been in your building on a given day. This is going to help the health department in the event that they have to track to see who's been exposed. Okay, so the next is maintaining a healthy environment. You're going to want to identify where staff and employees might be exposed at work. Start at the beginning of the building, follow through from the front to the back, where the customers go, where your staff goes, and identify those pinch points. Those are things like hallways, restrooms, and any of those high touch areas like light switches, doorknobs, faucets. You're going to want to create a plan for preventing exposures in those areas. And it might be that if you're not requiring people to wear masks at all times, potentially, if they're not wearing masks at their desks or their workstations, they might need to put on a mask if they're going to go pass through common hallways. You're going to complete a workplace hazard assessment so that you determine the risk of exposure for every position and location within your center. They're not all created equally. So people that are potentially working at check-in and check-out are going to have a different exposure than someone working in a stock room. And you're going to want to make available whatever PPE is required for that person. PPE is personal protective equipment. Speaking of not every position having the same risk, you're going to want to create a safe environment for a staff member to come to you if they feel like they're at a greater risk for COVID-19. People that are at a greater risk include anyone over 60, people over 50 with comorbidities that include hypertension, diabetes, and anyone that's immunocompromised. These people are probably going to want to not work in the highest hazard areas. If you've got someone out front that are screening people on the way in, you're not going to want to put them there. if you got people checking people out, you're going to want to be able to transition them to potentially a different role during this time. You need to create a safe space for staff to come to you to report that, and anything that they report to you needs to be confidential because it's a potential HIPAA violation. Encourage all staff to wear a cloth face covering, not just when customers are in. I'm in a lot of places that staff forgets that they're just as likely to be exposing germs to other people as the customers. And these cloth face coverings that the CDC recommends, my cloth face covering doesn't protect me. This is a common misconception. My cloth face covering protects in the event that I have this virus. Since it is aerosolized, it makes this spew of me talking and coughing, anything come out this way instead of directed at other people. So we have to rely on this kind of herd protection. If customers are coming in and you're asking them to wear masks, that protects your staff and vice versa. Masks don't replace social distancing. So you're still going to want to go through and maintain that 6 feet distance. When it comes to social distancing, it's not an all or nothing approach. If you work in a service industry where your staff member is going to have to come in contact, say it's a hairstylist with a customer, that doesn't mean that you can't maintain social distancing other areas. The amount of time that an exposure occurs matters when it comes to the contact tracing. And also, if that person is wearing a mask, and your staff member is wearing a mask, that also matters when it comes to contact tracing from the health department. But if that person, you still maintain social distancing at the checkout, even if that person came in close contact, and your staff can maintain social distancing from one another. So that might look like eating lunches outside, spread apart, so temporarily shutting down the break room and finding other ways that the staff can maintain that distance. Avoid having staff trade workspaces. If you guys have a type of job where someone has a specific workstation, try to get them to keep that same workstation throughout their entire shift versus moving around. So you might have to address your workflow when it comes to that. Clean high touch areas very frequently. This is like what I was mentioning, those light switches, those doorknobs, those faucets. I recommend hourly as often as possible. If you have the ability, consider addressing your ventilation system. You can look at what's called air exchanges. Since this is an aerosolized virus, it can live in the air. And the more air exchanges, which is how often the air turns over every hour, the more that air is getting cleaned. This doesn't necessarily mean you have to go out and buy those HEPA filters that are very expensive. It might mean that you keep the HVAC running constantly. Even if it hits the temperature that you would like and it would typically shut off, you might want to keep that fan running to get that air moving. Consider implementing contactless payments. I know a lot of stores have done this and are not even accepting cash at all. And a lot of restaurants are implementing digital menus. You can scan that QR code and bring it up. Obviously, for ADA, you're going to have to make some considerations about what you would do for those people. And even if you do still give a physical menu to people that need that, you're still reducing the risk of exposure by having the majority of people use digital menus. Okay, incident reporting and response. If a staff member becomes sick, there's a few things that you have to do. First, create an incident report. A lot of businesses don't have a good incident reporting process that I've been talking to. I've given you the full incident report form to report a COVID exposure in your handouts. You can individualize that for you. It belongs to you. Please use it. I hope you never have to though. Contact the health department and they'll tell you how to proceed. At the bottom of my resources page, I have the Wake County Communicable Disease Surveillance Team number. That's not easy to necessarily find. So I have someone that works there and that's how you will directly report it. A lot of times you'll be hearing from the health department and they'll be the ones telling you about an exposure, but if not, go ahead and contact them and ask them what you should do. You're going to close down just temporarily while you clean. And you may, if a person works in a small area, right now I'm in a phone booth in my workspace. If I were to become symptomatic, this should be shut down for 24 hours. It should be blocked off so nobody else will use it. After that 24 hours, someone's going to come in and they're going to clean with soap and water and then disinfect. So cleaning and disinfecting are two different things. For hard surfaces, even in regular cleaning, not just when there's an exposure, you're going to want to, as much as possible, clean with soap and water because that reduces bacteria and dirt and any other grime. And then disinfecting kills the microbes. So you're going to want to do 2-step cleaning wherever possible. And then you're also going to want to inform employees of the potential exposure and have them self-monitor for symptoms. If there's an exposure, you do not immediately have to close indefinitely. You clean the area that they've been in, you contact the health department, and you have staff monitor for their symptoms. Okay, so let's talk about that staff member returning to work after they've had after they've had confirmed COVID. First off, with a doctor's note, they can come back, period. If you don't have that, and that's not covered under HIPAA, they can bring you a doctor's note and say that they're allowed to return to work. If you don't have that, there's 2 different strategies that can be used. One is 3 days have passed since the recovery from all of the symptoms without use of medication. So they have no fever and they haven't taken fever reducing medications, and at least 10 days since the symptoms first appeared. The second one is, and so that's if somebody doesn't necessarily have access to follow-up testing to confirm that they are no longer COVID positive. The second one is test-based for if they do have access to testing. And that is resolution of the symptoms and fever without medication, improvement of symptoms, and 2 negative tests 24 hours apart. So that means that a person may be able to return to work a little bit more quickly with those 2 negative tests 24 hours apart than just waiting on the time-based, the symptom-based strategy. There are going to be instances where people test positive and they are asymptomatic in those, and that's like maybe if their family member has been sick, or if we start testing people more widely, say before surgeries or testing staff members, and then they have to wait 10 days since the first positive COVID test, or 2 negative tests 24 hours apart. Keep in mind that people that are severely immunocompromised may remain contagious for a longer amount of time. For those people, a doctor's note is definitely preferred. After this, they still need to follow all the same PPE precautions. We don't yet have enough information to show whether antibodies, so if they have had it, we don't know that converts to long-term immunity yet. It may be like the common cold where you can get sick again. So we need more information, so still have them wear those masks when they're around other people and maintain social distancing. All of these things, and Jess is going to touch on it, none of these things matter if you don't communicate it with your staff. Also, you're going to increase consumer confidence by communicating it with them as well. All of the questions that I've posed to you, all of the information that I've just given you today, you need to create a COVID plan in writing that you share with your staff and with your customers. And then you're going to be able to make a COVID plan and move your attention to other things. Do continue monitoring as the business owner, do walkthroughs, be aware of what your staff is doing, because it's really, I'm sure you guys have already seen personally, it's really easy to slip with these things. So if you've got it in writing, you personally as the employer, follow it as well, be the example, and monitor frequently. So make a plan, stick to it, evaluate the plan when new information is received, communicate it to your customers. Please use the resources I've given you. I've organized it by national, state, and local, which are all 3 areas you need to consider when you're making plans related to infection control. And you can contact me if you need anything. My website is at the end of my handouts, and you can email me directly at megang@grayandco.com. Thanks, guys. Eric, do we have individual questions?
Yes. So we do have a question. Do you have any additional advice about outdoor events?
Yes. So outdoor is always preferable to indoor. You're going to want to, and the CDC has this information as well. You're going to want to still have people maintain 6 feet distance. You don't necessarily have to have them wear masks if they're going to be 6 feet apart and outdoors. The state is saying right now outdoors limited to 25 people, but the CDC doesn't really give that number.
Okay. Awesome. Well, great. Well, thank you so much, Megan. We will do a little bit more Q&A here shortly, but we appreciate your time and assistance. All right. So our next speaker is going to be Jess Aberhart. Jess is founder of Jess & Co. and executive director of Leadership Triangle. She's going to be talking to us about marketing strategies and ways to rebuild consumer confidence. Turn it over to you, Jess.
Thanks, Eric. Everybody hear me? First of all, thank you all for joining. I know that carving out times like this is important, but it's also a sacrifice. So really, really appreciate it. Katie, Megan, wow, great information. So good. I took a million notes. Okay, so yes, now you sort of have foundational information on where you can go for resources. Megan laid out what does it look like to sort of be compliant and sensitive and thoughtful in this time. And so I want to take you sort of on a journey of thinking about what your customer might be thinking and how you can support them in their process and continue that confidence so that they stay a customer of yours. So if we can go to the slides. I only have these are really quick. Do you have them up, Eric?
Let's see. Give me just one moment here. I was just having a momentary technical difficulty.
It's all good. And if not, we can just run through it because I know time is and I can just kind of pop in some of these.
Yes. Zoom is not cooperating, unfortunately.
It's okay. It's all right. It's fine. So everybody just, if you have a little pen, and Eric can share the slides later. Here's what we're going to focus on: reflecting, resetting, and restoring. Those are the 3 areas, and we're going to quickly get through the reflect. We're going to spend a lot of time on reset, and then we're going to talk about how to restore. Okay, so that's where I'm headed. Eric's right. I'm the Executive Director of Leadership Triangle, CEO of Jess & Co. I'm a 4th-generation entrepreneur, so I feel you. I understand what you're going through. I also was the Director of Corporate Partnerships for Capital Broadcasting, so I see it from a corporate lens as well. How do you reflect? How do your customers feel right now? Well, they feel the way you feel. They feel the way you feel. So if your customers, thanks, I see them, Eric. If your customers are feeling, they're probably having this sense around safety, economic uncertainty. Those are great font. That's not actually the font I sent over, but that's cute. Okay, safety, economic uncertainty, racial equity and restoration are huge right now, right? Everybody's thinking about it, and many people right now are talking about it in ways that they haven't before. So you should be reflecting on how you feel, what you're thinking, what your stand is, where are your values, okay? Because that's all gonna come through in your messaging. Reconnect with your mission. It's really easy to get caught in the day-to-day. You're wondering, you're worrying, you're filling out applications, you're trying to get extra money, you're like, where's my PPP? Megan says I have to have all my personal protective equipment. Where do I push my tables? Okay, yes, that's the day-to-day, and you need to do that. But then you also need to step back and remind yourself, why did you do this? What was the business? Why are you in business? Who are you serving? Okay, so let's go to the next slide, which is on reset. Okay, so here's where I really want you to focus. We're going to spend a little bit more time on this. Focus on what you can control. It's a catastrophic. We have this mindset of catastrophe, right? Thinking, but what can you control as a business owner? Well, the first thing you can control is frictionless sales experience. Okay, Megan touched on this. You want to have touchless access. You want to think about your business. Can it go online? How can I make this the most frictionless experience for my customer, where they feel safe, where they understand that you're thinking about their interests first, right? So whatever that means for you, I mean, we have people who are running businesses with various products, but if you're a service-oriented business, obviously everything's running on Zoom right now. If you've got a product, can you do a subscription base? Can you go online, right, and sell your product online in new ways? But what does that really look like for you? So thinking about frictionless sales experience. Innovation. Listen, channel shifting is real, and that just means, well, I might have been engaging with my customer one-on-one. Maybe I need to look at Instagram. Maybe I need to look at Pinterest. Maybe I need to look at Amazon in new ways and shift my channel, okay, so that I can still meet the needs of my customers, but in ways that are easier for them. And then clear communication. So we'll spend a little bit of time on this. Transparency and vulnerability are key. This is all about relationships. You have relationships with your customers. Even if you see them once every 3 months, they have a feeling about you. It's why they came back. So clear communication, they're going to be looking to you for how you approach the pandemic, how you're approaching the racial unrest in our country. They're going to be looking at how that comes through in your messaging. So transparency and vulnerability will be key. And I have some very specific things in just a second. And then your message of safety and assurances. Okay, the last thing you want to be is tone deaf, is my point. You definitely don't want to take a tone deaf approach. So here's how to do that. First of all, don't pretend like everything is normal, because it's not. So if you continue to do the things that you've always been doing, people will assume you're tone deaf and that your only focus is the bottom line and that you're not participating in the feelings that are happening in this country. So don't participate that, or don't pretend that everything is normal, and address this issue head on. Don't keep marketing the same way that you have been, right? So you've seen, I think there's been some beautiful examples of this on commercials where you would normally see a car dealership say, well, normally we would be doing our spring sale, but now we want to thank healthcare providers, right? Now we want to thank our community for rallying behind small businesses. It's sort of like shifting and saying, we see you. So don't keep marketing the same as you have before. Bring that vulnerability through. Build your local community. Offer shout outs to those that are supporting local communities or industries. And what that means is, here's the thing. If you know that your customer, a certain customer, let's say her name is Nicole comes in and she shares a story with you. She's picking up her product and she tells you a beautiful story about how she's picking up 2 things so she can drop one off to the neighbor. Tweet that. Put that out there. Talk about your customers' engagement within the community in this time. Use humor carefully, okay? A lot of us kind of get a little bit sarcastic and we try to make things funny and lighthearted. There are people who are sick. There are people who have lost loved ones. There are people who are still sorting out emotionally how this all feels to them right now. So be very careful with how you use humor. You don't want to be depressing and dark. You also don't want to, take it over the edge where they feel like you're not listening, okay? Your customer's not listening. Use the word our and we as much as possible. We're all in this together. Avoid generalizations and statistics that stick. So like Twitter, people don't know what you tweeted yesterday, but they will see what you posted on Facebook. They will see what you posted on LinkedIn. People go back and read that. So anything that's sort of time sensitive, try to eliminate that and just be as general as you can without throwing in too many hard statistics that won't be relevant tomorrow. And then give people hope. We're all looking for that. And if you're the business that stays positive and stays above the fray, stays loving and mindful, you will create relationships that will last a lifetime. They will stay loyal to you in ways that in this time that they may not have in a year ago, because they know that you see them and you're in this partnership together. Katie said a great, well, that's on my next slide, but basically your messaging needs to make sure your customers aren't feeling like they're alone. Okay, so that's the communication piece. Let's move on to the next. I feel like I'm really running through this. One really quick thing about Pinterest, most underutilized platform right now, guys. You really should think about looking at selling and talking to your customer on Pinterest, particularly if your customer is primarily women or moms. It's the 3rd largest social network in the country right now. I was looking up some statistics because I'm moving a lot of my stuff online to Pinterest. 335 million people per month are looking at Pinterest, and shopping is a top priority for half of the users. Half of the people on Pinterest, women and moms, are shopping. So if there's a way for you to convert and take it to that new channel of Pinterest, you should try to do that and use that messaging that's really relatable, okay? All right, and then the last slide is just restore. So Katie said this beautiful thing when we were preparing for you all today, and she was like, this is about establishing a new contract with your customers. It's about saying, we need to co-create in this time, and I want to do that with you. So the only way that you can really do that is understanding your customer. So this, if you haven't done anything in this time of sort of downtime where everything is shifted, please put processes in place to track your data. If you don't have that, if you're like, people are walking in and they're writing on a clipboard of their name and email address, we got to sort that out. So figure out ways based on your business that you can track data more, have fidelity in the data so that you really understand your customer, okay? That way you can co-create, and that's the key. You want to co-create this new possibility, this new journey that we're all going on in the fall together, right? So what is it that they need? What are they actually buying now versus what they were buying or interested in your business 6 months ago. So that new co-creation, you can really speak to them and you're not, again, being tone deaf. Continue to innovate and channel shift. Make sure your messaging is consistent. If you do this once and then you're so excited and you're gung-ho and you're taking all of this in and you're like, I'm going to put my stories out there and I'm going to talk to my customers, and you do that for like 3 weeks, but then they never hear from you again, it doesn't feel authentic. So the more you give them a drumbeat that you're really in this with them, the more they will spend dollars with you, because they feel like, wow, they're really invested in this community and they're invested in me. Okay, and then use this time, Katie brought this up as well, to create small business masterminds and thought leadership. Find your people, find your peers, because this is a hard time for everyone, especially if you're trying to keep a business afloat, and especially if you have employees. It's an additional stress, and find the people that are also carrying that burden so that you can help lighten each other's load. A great, right now, McKinsey just put out that 40% of customers are trying new brands. So they're either going to be trying them with you or they're going to be trying them with someone else, and that's really up to you. So I was sharing this with a group. This 40% is a real thing, and when they're shifting brands and they're trying them, they're typically staying with them. So be the one that they try out. And the way they're going to do that is because they feel close to you and they feel like you hear them and you see what's happening around us and that you're with them and you're co-creating together. So at the end of the day, relationships win. They always do. And that's all I got. How was that? That was pretty good. That was quick. 9 minutes.
Thank you very much, Jess.
Yeah, happy to do it. Thanks, team. Thank you for all the work that you all are doing, small businesses. Mwah! I love you guys. So hard out there.
All right. So we do have a number of questions for you all. So we're going to jump on a few of those here. Let's see. So among the first ones is, Megan, companies had stopped using QR codes. Is that changing now? And let me find you, Megan, so we can unmute you. Let's see. Looks like we may have lost Megan at the moment.
Yeah, she said she had to hop on,
Jump off.
so she had to leave.
Okay. All right. Couple other questions that we had lined up then. So Jess, what's the best way to be updating social media platforms
Yeah.
right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot of aggregators like a Hootsuite, right, that you could use where you can schedule things out. I would recommend that you just Google search the aggregators and go to Hootsuite, because they offer a free option for you to join. You can update, I think with the free option, you can update at least 2 of your platforms at a time. Understanding that each platform has its own, it has its own audience and its purpose, right? Instagram is all about the visual. So beautiful photos with a really clean caption will go a long way and will grow your base. And it does appeal to people because it pulls on their heartstrings. Twitter is like in the moment, as we talked about before, and it can be a great way to provide quick information, news, thoughts on something that's happening right now. We had a lot of that last week, sort of that in the moment. So if anyone's following you, that's the best way they're going to hear how you feel and where your values are as it's happening. And then Facebook, a lot of people aren't even using Facebook in the same way anymore. So you have to decide how you want to address people on Facebook. It's way more personal, right? That you can write a whole lot of stuff in there. That's where you can get a little bit creative. They don't have as many limitations on text. And then LinkedIn is your business community. And I would suggest that that's also very underutilized. Take full advantage of LinkedIn. If you don't know this, you should know that you can go into LinkedIn for all your followers and pull their email addresses for free. So there's a way to do that in the back end. If you have 5,000 people on LinkedIn, you have 5,000 email addresses. So using that platform to your advantage as a business owner right now is great. And LinkedIn people on LinkedIn are loyal when you post consistently. So posting consistently and responding, seeing great things on there and making a comment builds loyalty. You start to get your own LinkedIn brand when you're not just posting, but you're participating. I hope that's helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jess. Have another question for Katie as well. Let's see, Katie, I'm going to put you on there. What are the new changes with the PPP that lawmakers are currently trying to push?
Are you talking about the second one or the third one?
The most recent one, the third.
So I know there was a increased focus on healthcare providers and smaller entrepreneurs and some opening for nonprofits. But until it's actually signed and passed, all of that could change.
Sure. Okay. Great. Well, I would like to be respectful of everybody's time. I really want to thank our panelists for taking the time out of their schedules to join us today. This has all been really valuable information. I know that it's easy to get overwhelmed, especially in these uncertain times. As small business owners, many of you are playing the role of CEO, employee, HR, custodian at the same time. I would encourage you all to stop and take some time to be the owner every once in a while. As Jess said, control what you can. Try to be more proactive and less reactive. Get the information that you need to assess where you are and keep growing that business. How you plan now will prepare you for that next hurdle that will undoubtedly be coming our way. But we appreciate you all joining us today. We will be offering more of these workshops in the future, so you will all definitely be hearing from us. We look forward to continued engagement, and we are committed to bringing diversity and inclusion to downtown Raleigh's business community. But thank you all for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.